With Wild's info drops getting more and more numerous as time goes on, we now reached a point where we have a pretty decent perspective of what to expect from the game's full release. Ever since its announcement almost a year ago, that we understood its sheer magnitude in both scope and scale. Everything about it seems more expansive, magnified, more grandiose. It really feels like it's going to be the biggest Monster Hunter title we had so far. And knowing that it has been in development for 6 years, the longest in the series, is a good indicator of such. There are a bunch of features Wilds has that have been really impressive for the community to see, old and new alike. The size and detail of the world, the complexity and fluidity of combat, the mysterious and intriguing narrative, the enriched and dynamic endemic wildlife. Capcom took all its talent, all its knowledge, all its creativity, and managed to forge a fantastical, breathing, and fully functional ecosystem. A complete sandbox with incredible mechanical depth that will for certain delight us for many years to come. But another highly praised aspect of Wilds that is arguably even more important than anything else, and is also the topic of today's video, is the monsters themselves. We all know that they are the true stars of the franchise. They are part of the story. They are part of the world we immerse ourselves in. The entire gameplay loop revolves around them. The roster in Monster Hunter is one, if not the most, crucial core component of the series. The thought and work put into them is tremendous. The level of creative detail that each one of them display is absolutely extraordinary, and the end result is nothing shy of a masterpiece. Most of the time. I will always defend that the monster design from this IP is genius, the best in the entire industry, and it appears that Wilds is going even further beyond. With 20 years and 22 games under its belt, Monster Hunter generated over 350 of these beautifully crafted creatures. Yes, I'm counting spin-offs, and it is only natural for people to get attached to them. They represent way more than just the animal itself. They represent specific fights, specific challenges. They represent armor, weapons, skills, some even entire mechanics or systems. There's a lot more to these monsters beyond appearance and ecology, but as much as we would like to see all of them shoved into a single game, at this point that is practically impossible to accomplish. So each title has its own roster, a selection of monsters carefully picked by the developers and determined to best serve what said game is aiming towards. But despite the careful and meticulous process of choosing which ones get to be featured, sometimes, for reasons outside of the dev's control, some rosters are better than others. Ironically enough, so far World is the entry that suffered the most in this regard, with almost 2/3 of the entire list being a mixture of flying wyverns and elder dragons, which is very unfortunate since this universe has a highly diverse cast of monster types to choose from. But as Worldborn was a reimagine of the franchise and so much was changed back then, that it is understandable having that lack of variety. What makes Wild so incredible and promising when it comes to this is that not only it's visibly fixing the flaws present in the previous generation, it is potentially surpassing any other title at this rate. Deciding which monster to bring back is a very complex endeavor, make no mistake. The parameters Capcom impose on themselves is long and much harder to fulfill than one might initially think. How many of them are new, and how many are returning? Adding too many exclusive monsters might disappoint many fans that wish to see recognizable faces in the game again, but adding too many already existing ones might give the impression we are getting the same roster over and over. And while the logical conclusion is just making 50-50 of each, other considerations prevent that from happening. The story needs to be taken into account, the new mechanics being introduced, the new combat techniques hunters have. Maybe the roster needs more members of a specific element, but they don't fit the biome they are required to fill, or they are too similar to pre-selected candidates. The ecology side is also extremely important, especially in mainline games and even more so in Wilds. Let's not forget that immersion and an open, breathing world is its biggest selling point after all. Let's say that they need a small brute wyvern for Windward Plains with fire as its signature element. They take a look at their long catalog and realize, wait a minute, there are none. Wuragan is the closest thing we have, but it's not small at all. And even if it was, Wuragan's main habitat is volcanic regions, not deserts. So, in this example, the developers knew this was the perfect opportunity to introduce a new monster, and from that came Chemetries. Most situations are not as black and white as this one, of course, but the methodology remains the same. Each monster needs to fit their environment, their world, and their place gameplay-wise. The apexes of Wilds, for instance, are purposefully brand new not only because of the already mentioned requirements, but also due to their relevance in the game's narrative. Every member of the roster is there for a reason. They fill niches, from ecology to in-game mechanics. And this time around, Capcom appears to have absolutely nailed it, because this roster, my friends, oh boy, this one is insane. As of the recording of this video, we have full confirmation of 15 large monsters, and in such a small sample, we already have a level of creature diversity that we haven't seen in years, if ever. Fanged beasts, amphibians, leviathans, flying wyverns, brute wyverns, bird wyverns, whatever this thing is, temnocerans, and even unknown extinct species. There are so many monster types already showcased that at this rate it would be surprising if not all types were in the game. There's more variety in these 15 alone than in the 31 World launched with. Let that sink in. And I think people don't truly grasp how important this is. Different monster categories don't solely mean different monster aesthetics or skeletons. It's much, much more than that. They open up new challenges, new ways the monster moves, attacks, new ways they interact with the hunter and everything around them, new ecology details, new combat and non-combat related systems or features, different endgame grind. The presence of this much creature diversity not only enriches the game's atmosphere, it enriches gameplay itself. And it looks like Capcom isn't stopping with just adding more types into Wilds. The newcomers that we have been shown until now are also quite different in their own right. The style of these monsters was always very grounded, relatively speaking. They always had the basis not in reality, but in credibility. Obviously, they could not exist in real life, but it made sense them existing in those places, acting and looking the way they do. It was believable and consistent, and those perceptions are source of immersion. Now, these fellows over here don't go against that trend in the slightest, but they also seem different. They look more exotic, even in comparison to previous gens. Their body structure for the most part is not out of the ordinary for this universe. Some look even more realistic than most, but they look more crude, grotesque, more alien than what we are used to. The developers seem to be taking higher risks while creating the roster for Monster Hunter Wilds. Their designs appear bolder, more out of the box, so to speak. And in my opinion, that is good. Trying new things is always a net positive. Keeping ideas fresh and innovate on previous work can generate amazing results. Sure, it may not work all the time and sometimes the innovation can be pushed a bit too far, but a few misses here and there are worth it in my opinion. Even if most of them end up being disliked, the devs had an opportunity to try something new, to revisit old concepts, to improve existing ones, or to bring never-seen ideas to life. Even if in the future Wilds is known for having lackluster monsters, Capcom still learned something with this experience, and in the next titles we may get even better iterations of them. But let's be honest here, these monsters are cool as shit, so it's already a win-win situation for us anyway. Overall, I am incredibly happy for the work shown as of yet when it comes to this. The roster looks phenomenal, and with such immersive and dynamic world to play on, hunting them will feel better than ever. But what do you guys think? Tell me your favorite new monster Wilds has announced and why. I want to hear your perspective about it. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you wanna join the ranks, you can do so for only $1 a month. The link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below, join our Discord server, engage with the community, and I hope to see you all next time.